Alright, this is it. This is the best expression the show has ever produced. It's over. We've made it. We have reached the pinnacle of pony animation. So when season 4 nails it, it fucking nails it. Pinkie Pride is easily one of the best episodes of season 4. There is just a ton of greatness packed into this 22-minute escapade of silliness. Where do I even start? Pinkie is treated like an actual character. Holy shit. Episodes like this are why I don't like Pinkie randomly coloring in a coloring book in the middle of a crisis, or being distracted by a balloon. Pinkie is a freaking weirdo, but she's not stupid. She's acutely aware of everything that's going on around her, and even more than that, she's actually really sensitive. And this episode captures everything that's great and everything that's kind of wrong about Pinkie Pie. I'll be honest, I was mentally preparing myself to put this episode on blast and deal with the subsequent fallout from the moment I heard about it. I'm not the biggest Weird Al fan, so I thought that his presence might end up being a bit intrusive, but that wasn't the case at all. Cheese Sandwich, despite the weird name, was a great addition to the MLP cast even beyond his thematic purpose. He was a great compliment to Pinkie Pie and helped this episode be another great character study for her, as well as being a fun character in his own right, bringing his own brand of wackiness that complemented Pinkie's antics really well. Speaking of antics, the gags in this episode were fantastic, as they should be considering it's a Pinkie Pie episode. The goof-off probably had the best jokes in it, cutting to the live-action shots of Boneless and Gummy, as well as Cheese blatantly ripping off the Smile song and having Pinkie call him on it was fantastic. I can already hear some people probably calling the goof-off as a really obnoxious scene though, and I kind of agree, it totally was, but you gotta understand that that was kind of the point. It was supposed to be over the top and a bit grating because the point of the scene was that the squabble between Pinkie and Cheese was overshadowing the reason they were fighting in the first place, to celebrate Dashie's so-called birth-iversary. Right from the get-go, Dash isn't all that enthused with the two party planners going at it on her big day, but neither notice this because they're too busy trying to outgoof each other. Pinkie calls off the contest when she realizes her mistake. The whole reason she wanted to throw Dash a party was to make her happy. When her actions were doing the opposite of that, she gets the rainbow eyes and learns her lesson. I was also ready to criticize this episode for constantly repeating character names, especially Cheese Sandwich, but they totally had an awesome payoff at the end, calling back to a classic Western trope, which I oddly didn't find intrusive. Probably because A, Cheese is visually portrayed like that from the beginning, and B, Appaloosa has already established that style of world building in Equestria, as well as it being a great ending gag from Pinkie. One scene that really stood out for me, for reasons I can't really accurately express, was the small bit in the first song with Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. I should still really hate her forever for Flight to the Finish, but I liked this, cause like, not only is it the first time Diamond Tiara has actually sung a song, but I don't know, this is like the most we've ever seen of the duo's dynamics, so it caught my attention. Tiara totally tries to tool on Spoon and steal her drink, but Spoon ain't having none of that shit. It just makes me kind of upset that they're usually played as such flat, static antagonists, because this scene proves that they could have an amazing screen presence if characterized like this more often. This episode had like 4 songs in it, and all of them were fantastic. I think the final song during Dashie's party was my favorite musically, as I found it the most catchy, but the one that worked best narratively was Cheese Sandwich's Party Pony song, especially in conjunction with the previous song from Pinkie. His song establishes Cheese as having essentially identical motivations to what Pinkie was just talking about, but Cheese constantly refers to himself being singular in his ambitions, even though Pinkie just got through saying she does the exact same thing. As interesting as Cheese's exposition and antics were in this song, the best part to me was Pinkie's initial enthusiasm of Cheese's presence waning as he continued to garner more and more attention from the denizens of Ponyville, to the point where he completely overshadows her. This is a great way to subtly frame the theme of this episode. And that's really the meat of what's going on here. Theming. God damn, when season 4 wants to examine some new concepts, it picks some damn fine concepts to take a look at. Flight to the Finish talked about physical limitations and looking up to your heroes versus embracing your own identity. Rarity Takes Manhattan explored how one's best attributes can be taken advantage of and cause you to doubt yourself. And here, Pinkie Pride takes a look at the concept that I think was a friggin' long time coming, especially in a world like Equestria. How many times have people asked what happens when or if 2 ponies have the same special talent, or if it was even possible? Not only that, but this is such an amazing moral in its own right, and something totally relevant. How to deal with people who are seemingly better or more widely recognized for the same skill you mostly identify with. Cutie marks are a great way of simplifying the message to follow your passions. But not only is the real world not that cut and dry, but not everyone in the real world has a skill uniquely theirs. Naturally, there's a lot of overlap, which kind of takes the special out of special talent. Pinkie Pride decides to examine this shortcoming in the context of the show in an attempt to explain how to deal with the same problem in a society that's as interconnected as ours. where our definition of skill and talent have been reshaped and put up against literally everyone in the entire connected world, since the internet puts the best of the best right in our faces. This distortion of personal ability is a huge problem for developing self-confidence, and something people can relate to, least of all myself. Pinkie's self-confidence is shattered when she comes across another individual who is just as good at the skill that defines her as she is, and the fact that her friends are so enamored with cheese strengthens the blow, and it shakes her to her core, to the point where she feels she might just be better off giving up on party planning altogether. How many times have you seen a post on Tumblr with this exact dilemma from creative individuals? How many times have you felt this exact same thing yourself? I think I've lost track of how many times I felt like this just this month, let alone my entire life. This is a very real issue that pervades our culture today. But what brings Pinkie back from the brink of despair is that she remembered that she planned parties because it was something she enjoyed doing, not because she was the best at it. And she took to heart the fact that she had great memories throwing parties, and she made a lot of ponies happy doing what she loved. And if the episode just stopped here, I would have applauded them. But Pinkie Pride takes it a step even further and also comments on the right and wrong way to deal with people that caused you to doubt yourself in the first place. Pinkie's initial reaction is to view Cheese as a threat and challenges him to prove her superiority, but eventually comes to realize that their common ground should be a fact that unites them, not drives a wedge between them. This episode just packs so much thematic integrity and truly relevant advice into its moral that I can't help but laud its execution. It was fantastically framed and delivered. I gotta say though, this episode isn't perfect. There were a few minor things that I kinda noticed as well that were weird, and while in no way were enough to ruin the episode, were still there. First off, I thought it was kinda weird how the entire opening of the episode was about how the entire town loves Pinkie's parties and thinks she's the best thing ever, but no one sticks around with her once Cheese shows up. I mean, Pinkie was very much purposely isolating herself, as shown when Twilight came to ask why she wasn't helping Cheese Sandwich plan Dash's party, but even so, it was pretty obvious that Pinkie was upset. I was surprised when Twi kinda just accepted Pinkie's obvious lie about being okay and didn't at least try to get her to open up. Same thing goes when Dash kinda belittles Pinkie's parties after the whole town just got through singing about how great they were. Again, this was hardly a deal breaker, but it is there. Also, why would Cheese not be straight up with Pinkie and admit she was his idol from the get-go? If he did, there wouldn't be a conflict, I suppose, and that should rub me the wrong way, because that's a plot hole, and it kinda does. But everything that happened in this episode was really fun, so I can't really get too upset about it, as much as I probably should. But just for the record, this plot hole is there. Cheese seems like more of a straight shooter than to lie about that, especially considering he's supposed to be similar to Pinkie. However, I guess because he's supposed to be like a shy character that was kind of projecting this false image of confidence to cover up his past, it does kind of make sense. I don't know, I'm kind of touch and go with this one. I'm not really sure which way it goes. Overall, Pinkie Pride, though, is fantastic. Is it the best episode of Season 4? I'm not sure. I guess that really depends on what your preference is for thematic message, but it's certainly up there with Flight to the Finish and Rarity Takes Manhattan as some of the best in not just Season 4, but the entire series. Season 4 certainly does have its share of dud episodes here and there, but when it gets a hit, it knocks it out of the park. Now I have a question for you. Weird Al was a special celebrity guest in today's episode of MLP. If you could pick one celebrity to be a guest star on this show, who would you cast and how would you cast them? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have a question for me, I'll be doing a Q&A on this episode in the next few days. And the Q&A this week is going to work a bit differently. I've been having a hard time keeping up with all the questions I'm getting in the YouTube comments, on DeviantArt, and all the places that I put in the description below. I get thousands and thousands and thousands of messages, and digging through them is a bit difficult. So what I'm going to do for this week, and see if this works any better, is I'm going to resurrect one of my old Tumblr blogs, bronycurious Replies. If you have a question, feel free to leave it at that blog so I can have all the questions in one place, so it'll be a bit easier to find. Anon questions are enabled on that blog, so even if you don't use Tumblr, you can still go there and leave a question. Link to that, as well as all my other social media links, are in the description below, as well as Palette Swap's blog, so be sure to check that out. Till next time, I'm Tommy Oliver. Stay curious.